We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Ngunnawal people, and pay respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. This podcast episode is a part of the Listening to Canberra Voices podcast series made at the Faculty of Arts and Design at the University of Canberra 2025. Welcome back to the Listening to Canberra Voices podcast. I'm your host, Maddie.
And I'm Naomi.
And we would like to welcome Ren to the podcast studio.
Hi.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the listeners?
I'm Ren. I'm 17 and I graduated last year from Canberra Girls Grammar and I am studying at RMIT University next year doing a Bachelor of Fine Arts.
Not finance.
Not finance.
Fine arts. What do you do with fine arts?
I mainly focus on oil painting. Like, I had a couple of different mediums that I was considering. During my interview, I showed some drawings with like coloured pencil, charcoal, lead pencil, because that's my other main sort of medium, and like ink work too. But oil painting has always been what I've kind of come back to and what kind of clicked with me. And I don't really know what that leads to in the future, but that's kind of what I'm hoping will come from the university experience.
So how would you describe your artistic style?
It was kind of very broad for a while. It actually started a lot with like fan art, which I feel like a lot of artists start with these days. But I don't know, I sort of then kind of went really hard into realism because I was going to all these different art courses outside of my school because my school didn't really start very strong in the arts. And I just wanted to make further progress than I was in class. And they just very much were only focused on realism and it kind of just bored me. So I kind of started leading into surrealism, which is now my main thing, which is actually funny because I actually don't love most surrealist artists, but it's probably the most fun to work with because you can just do like anything you want. You have to figure out what represents what to portray your ideas.
What support in Canberra is there for aspiring artists and artists in general that you're aware of and you've used maybe?
I think as much as I don't love the art scene in Canberra, there is quite a lot of outside support outside of schools. I think there could definitely be a lot more progress in schools when it comes to the art scene. I feel like a lot of Canberra schools, especially the private ones, are more focused on sports and sciences, which is an amazing thing in itself, but it's like there's a whole group of kids that are being
it's
completely...
not for everyone.
No. But there are quite a few art courses around Canberra. I have taken 2 or 3. I would say that they are not the best. Like, they are very targeted to specific things and they tend to be led by teachers who are very focused on their own interests. If you try and stray and do your own thing, they kind of either don't like you as much or straight up tell you that you're doing it wrong, which is exactly the opposite of what art is. But there are a lot of programs around Canberra that schools will sometimes take you to, like at the National Portrait Gallery or museums for different art. Like, there's different exhibitions you can go see. There's amazing exhibitions around Canberra all the time, and sometimes they'll have kids courses that come in hand with them. And those are really amazing, and there's definitely some artists that I learned about throughout those courses that have inspired my art journey, and I think that those are definitely probably the best that Canberra has to offer because they're amazing.
Obviously you're going to Melbourne to study art. Would you say that there's definitely more opportunities for artists, places like Melbourne and Sydney, and opposed to Canberra, or would you say Canberra's kind of on par with that?
No, I definitely say Melbourne in particular, but definitely Sydney as well, has a lot more opportunity for artists and a lot broader fields too, because with Canberra, you're pretty much your only options is freelance, trying to get your work into a museum and exhibitions, which is a very hard thing to do, and you need to have those connections, which there being only a couple of unis here isn't very easy to build up, which is actually one of the main reasons I want to go to RMIT, because they have so many ways to build up connections through teachers and programs and even just like meeting your peers. And it's also just, again, the range of jobs. With Melbourne, it's such a big place. Like, you could open up your own little gift shop, you could work in film, theatre, which you can do in Canberra. It's just not as broad and as open, and it's harder to make it big with any creative and nuanced and niche ideas, which I think you can definitely do it in Canberra. It's just there are definitely a lot more opportunities in Melbourne and Sydney.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know about you, Naomi, but for me personally, because I'm graduating at the end of the year, what I'm going to do post-grad, if I'm going to do a master's or like work or whatever, everywhere I'm looking is outside of Canberra.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's nothing really for film, especially in Canberra. Like
Definitely.
I'm looking at Sydney, Melbourne, like Brisbane.
I'm already planning on going to Melbourne.
Yeah.
I'm already planning on going to Sydney. I'm just not even looking in Canberra.
To specialise, it's a lot better to go to other places. Canberra's very broad, and on the Canberra scene, I went to a handmade market and I noticed majority of the art is all based around nature and birds.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
birds is
it's
such
very
a big...
Canberra.
Yeah, and there's like also, even in schools, their arts courses will be focused around Canberra. There'll be things on the history of it, which is amazing. I love those courses, but there's a lot that are based on the architecture of it. Like, I remember in my design course, I had to do a whole thing where we designed jewellery focused on roundabouts, which is the most Canberra thing you could possibly do.
Goodness.
And it was just, like, none of us enjoyed it, which is, you know, for some people they might love it, but it just isn't the freedom of other places and courses and experiences.
Yeah, like I loved doing art in school, but then in year 11 and 12 it was very niche with what they wanted you to do,
Yeah.
and you didn't have much of a scope, which kind of took the creativity out of it.
Yeah,
Kind
you'd
of-
think that getting into the older years that you would have more freedom
Mm.
because they understand that you're going to be going off and doing your own specific thing.
Exactly, yeah.
How does your art style differ from Canberra artists? Like, have they influenced you in any way, or are you really just trying to steer clear of anything Canberra related?
I don't know, there's some Canberran artists that I do love. I don't remember their names, but I think especially going to the National Portrait Gallery, that's probably the place where most of the artist stuff that I actually love, of Australian artists in particular. I think because a lot of my work is centered around people, like I love working with anatomy and facial expressions and just playing with it in a way of like colour and what's around them and the situation that they're in. That's something that I've definitely picked up along the way going to different museums. And there's this one artist I don't actually remember the name of that I went to an exhibition of a couple of months back actually for my uni application. He did this surrealism series that was representing a really dark time in history, and it was just the way that his message was so clear through such hard to distinguish figures that definitely inspired my works afterwards. And yeah, I do think that there is definitely artists with similar styles that I have an interest in Canberra. It's just they are so much rarer and so less learnt about and harder to access those resources.
Ren, I haven't known you for long, but I have seen a bit of your art, and what I've noticed is you express yourself in a lot of ways in your art. So do you think that your identity plays a large part in your subject matters and sort of the art you create?
Yeah, it's definitely probably where 99% of my inspiration comes from. I'll often have certain music playing that connects back to a situation that I've dealt with or that I relate to, and I'll just get this feeling that I need to do something about it. And the only way that I know that I have the resources and ability to do that through is through art. And I will just get out a scrapbook and just put random lyrics and ideas down onto a page, and then that will become the work. And it's all very based on my personal experience plus sort of inspiration from outside sources like music or film or books even. But like one of my main pieces that I did that I'm actually probably most proud of is this one called Purgatory. When I was going through a really dark place last year and I was actually waiting to find out whether I would get into uni, especially RMIT, just felt like I was in this place of waiting and knowing that I was going to be somewhere better, but for now I just had to be there and just get through each day. So it's this piece of a skeleton sitting in what looks like underwater, and the only light source is a koi fish, which is a symbol throughout history of hope. And the skeleton's kind of looking up at this koi fish. It is actually based on a piece that I did when I was a lot younger of just a skeleton sitting surrounded by like stars. But it's the best way for me to express my mental health, my personal journey, like a lot of different aspects of my personality, my mental health and my identity linked back to my art. And I don't really know how to make art without doing that, honestly.
So it's sort of kind of like a little journal for you.
Yeah,
Like your
100%.
sketchbook is your journal. You don't write, just...
No, literally, yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've always found it's really hard for me to come up with like inspiration to do art. Like I can look at a subject and then draw that, but
Yeah.
to actually like put your emotion in,
Yeah.
that's really hard for me to be able to do.
Yeah, I was always like that. And then I think the music is definitely what helped me actually be able to connect my thoughts to ideas, and also doing research into the meaning of symbolism. Like even just like the whole skeleton idea was the idea of like death and depression and waiting at the bottom of like the ocean and sitting on this dark rock, and there's like an ombre with the colours, and it's like, yeah, it's the symbolism that I really love that my research into surrealism definitely helped me with.
Do you go into making the art knowing that different aspects of it are going to represent different things for you, or does it kind of just come afterwards that you realise?
I think it's a bit of both. I start with my base idea. Sometimes I'll just randomly think of like a perfectly clear idea and I'll have to stick to it, which my art teachers did not love, knowing the whole like, you have to do the whole like experimenting with ideas thing. And I was like, no, I'm doing this. But other times, as I'm working on it, I will enhance certain details or add random little things, and it'll be like a perk. And sometimes when I'm writing artist statements or things like that, it'll sort of become a bit jumbled just because I have so many ideas linking into it. Like I'm currently working on a piece that's this ballerina who looks...
I've seen it.
Yeah. Who looks extremely distorted. It was, again, linking back to music, I was listening to a sad playlist. I was like thinking about how sometimes when we feel negative emotions, like particularly sadness, it can in a way feel comforting and almost beautiful, and there's so many beautiful songs that come out of sadness and art and things like that. And so I wanted to represent how like, yeah, sadness can be beautiful, which isn't, you know, the loveliest thought, but it's something. And so I wanted to make this painting haunting in a way, like you just couldn't stop looking at it. I'm still playing with it a lot because I just have such like that specific idea in my head, but as I've been going along, I've sort of made the ballerina look more and more like starved and also overworked, and it's just capturing so many broader ideas about like, I don't know, I sort of hyperfixated on dance for a little while and like how much work these young girls put in and how their lives can be ruined in a second, just a broken ankle and like everything they've worked towards. And I think that's like, it kind of works with my idea well because they're working so hard for this beautiful thing while they're in so much pain. And so yeah, it's just like I kind of think of things as I go along and it ends up a bit chaotic, but I guess that's what I kind of love about my art.
Does that sum you up as a person as well?
Yeah.
Just a little bit chaotic,
Yeah, a little bit.
a jumble of stuff.
Yes.
No, I think that's really interesting because I find that personally when I have to do an artist statement, I get to the point of writing it and I can't even articulate into words like
100%.
what I'm trying to say, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
The
Yeah.
artist statement's always the hardest part.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time on Google just looking up synonyms, so I'm
Synonyms
not just like,
and
it
finding
make me feel this way.
inspiration.
Yeah.
Like you find the inspiration afterwards
Yeah,
it's already done.
100%. Yeah.
So where do you think your art will take you in the future?
I mean, as I said earlier, it's a pretty... I have a lot of broad ideas in my mind. I've been bouncing from idea to idea my entire life, but it's always been focused on art, aside from like, you know, wanting to be a princess or a YouTuber when I was like 9. I don't know. I think definitely I'm hoping that uni will sort of make me find my place and my way, or just even just being in Melbourne, having all those opportunities and those people who all have a similar vision or style to me just around me will help me find my path. I stuck for a really long time, like probably 4 years, to working in film. I really wanted to go work at Weta Studios in New Zealand. Yeah, I wanted so bad to be a costume designer, but then also practical effects, and then I couldn't decide. And then I also have a bit of a passion for writing stories and acting, and it was just like I kind of just got overwhelmed with all the ideas and just the idea of even going to New Zealand. So I ended up I think Melbourne is definitely the place that I picture myself staying when it comes to my career in particular. There's also been ideas of like being a tattoo artist or opening my own little like gift shop that I can have as like a bookstore art.
Doesn't that just sum up every creative person
Yeah,
ever?
just not
I want to
knowing
do
what they wanna do.
everything.
Literally
Yeah.
everything.
Can't
I
stick
can't
to
choose
one
one
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
I want to do everything, but I'm like forcing myself to focus on one thing. So every time I'm like, I'm going to edit, but then I'm like, but I want to direct, but I want to
Right.
write, but I want to do everything.
Like you just want to be in control
but
of everything.
I don't like other people having control over my ideas.
Right?
That's the thing
Yeah.
about Melbourne too, is like you can have all those opportunities, and honestly if I think that if I do end up wanting to switch a bunch of times, it's not going to be the end of the world like it would in Canberra, where you have to spend so long
Yeah.
building up resources and a community and an environment, and it's so hard to find them that it's just you kind of have to stick to your thing. And there's plenty of Canberran artists who have switched around. My school would actually bring in quite a few to talk to us during the art shows at the end of the year, and they would tell us about all these different places that they've been. But it's just with the particular interest, especially if I feel like our generation, Melbourne is definitely a better scene for it.
Also, that whole like move will be like a whole new pool of inspiration for you.
100%, yeah.
Like moving away from home for the first time,
Yeah.
is it?
Yes.
You've spent your whole life in
Whole
Canberra.
life in Canberra.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's already inspired like most of my art recently, even if it's just sketchbook stuff or, yeah, like my big pieces, because, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the pieces I've made recently, because I was in a bit of an art slump, were specifically for my uni portfolio, because I definitely had a lot of pieces, but because I had worked on them in a while, I didn't feel that they were good enough for my dream uni. So all I was thinking about while making them was how badly I wanted to get into RMIT. And yeah, so I kind of couldn't help but be very focused on that. Like one of my pieces was literally about just being art blocked and overwhelmed at all the ideas. And I sent that in. I was like, I literally titled it Help. And I went on a rant about how I don't know where I'm going with my art skills. I have all these different mediums I want to try, and I feel stuck with my art sometimes, and it very much felt in a way like I was pleading with them. So I'm very glad that they don't know the timeline of when I made that and that I made it specifically for the portfolio.
Just let me in.
Yeah.
No, that must have been really, really exciting when you got in then.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I actually found out the day after my interview because I was so nervous for the interview. I was so certain I wasn't going to get in because it was my dream school. It was the only place I could picture myself going. And I got to this interview. I had no clue how to do the portfolio. The instructions were pretty unclear. I didn't know whether I was supposed to bring in a physical or a digital. And I get in there ranting. My dad's sitting outside the door listening. I go out and I'm like so nervous. And my dad's like, "You did great. You said everything right. There were a few times I thought you were going to go to something like way too just going on about it, but you did really well." And then literally the next day they sent me an email and they were like, "This is unofficial, but you are in," pretty much. And I just freaked out. I'm pretty sure everyone in the hotel heard me scream. And then a couple months later got the official thing, and it was, yeah, very, very exciting.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that sums it up for us today. Thank you for coming on the podcast
Thank you.
and talking about your experiences
It's very
being an artist and being an artist in Canberra. I'm really excited for you and I hope you do well in Melbourne.
We
Thank
can't
you.
wait to see what you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
Well, that was very interesting. I felt like I learned a lot from her.
Yeah, wasn't she great? She was really amazing. She talked a lot.
It's very impressive what she's doing, going
Yeah.
all the way to Melbourne and studying art and all that.
Yeah. Thanks everyone for listening, and we hope that you've learned something and enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you next time.
Not us personally,
Not
but
us,
someone
but
else
somebody
will see you next time.